Welcome back to another episode of Cooking in the Kitchen with Dani. And today's episode is kind of a split episode. We started earlier with the vodka pie crust, and this episode is a continuation of that one, and it's also making a summer blackberry pie, which is just one of my favorite pies. Ever since I was a little girl, blackberry season in the Pacific Northwest, it's like a thing. It starts in August with the very first berries, and they've just started. And my husband was kind enough to go out and cook and pick me enough berries so I could make for you today summer blackberry pie, my fave. It was always the one that I picked for, instead of birthday cake, I always used to pick blackberry pie for my birthday when I was a kid. Love it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start, the blackberry pie, we're going to start with the vodka pie crust, double pie crust recipe in the first episode. And then we're going to use fresh blackberries. We're going to use some sugar. We're going to use some cornstarch. We're going to use a pinch of salt, actually. I can't tell you, it just does something magical to the berries. And I'm going to put zest of orange in just because I felt like it. Not because it's part of the recipe, but just because it feels like something I want to do, and just a little teeny bit of cinnamon. So let's get going. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to move this down so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take first, hold on to my cups and measuring cups. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3/4 of a cup of sugar. That's a half a cup. This is 1/4 of a cup. I live in the country, we have mice, I keep everything in glass. We're gonna take that, we're gonna take, just literally a pinch of salt, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, this is 1/4 of a teaspoon, really just a teeny tiny bit. Put that in there. Then I'm gonna put in 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. 3 to 4. I usually do a little bit more because berries are so runny, and this is the part that thickens your pie up. I'm going to do 4 today. 3 and 4. There's a lot of different thickening agents you can use. I think cornstarch is pretty simple. Let me grab a fork. Sugar, cornstarch, pinch of salt, and let's go with 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. It just gives a nice little flavor to those blackberries. So there we go, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to mix that all together. And cornstarch tends to be lumpy, so I'm going to kind of use the back of my fork and press against those lumps until I mostly get all the lumps out. Because you don't want cornstarch lumps in your blackberry pie, right? Nobody likes lumps in their pie. You're not bite down on something that's not delicious in blackberry. So just using the fork tines, pressing against the edge of the bowl, scooping around. Let's see, mostly all gone. Now, we're going to take our fresh blackberries and put them into a big bowl. Should have done this sooner. Okay, so I'm going to use a glass 4-cup measuring cup. And, you know, when I'm doing this myself, I don't typically measure anything. I just dump them in the bowl. That seems like about enough. But what we're going to say, literally like 6 to 8 cups, is going to fill your pie pan pretty sufficiently. So there's, these literally just are the first berries of the season coming off the vine. So there's 4 cups. Go ahead and put a couple of cups worth in there. Because where we live, there's not anything to get on these berries. I didn't wash them first. Try and find berries that aren't too dusty or whatever, because washing them just kind of, it waters down the flavor of your fresh summer blueberries. So that's about 2 more cups, maybe 3. Just dump them right on in there. Okay, oops, runaways. Then I take my sugar, cinnamon, cornstarch mixture and just dump it right on top. I'm gonna fold that together with my spatula. So they just look like dusted berries right now. And then, because I feel like it and I can, my pie, I'm gonna add a little orange zest. So I have a zester here, and I've washed my orange with just one single tiny drop of hand soap, dishwashing soap, and washed it and dried it. So there's no pesticides or anything on there. And then you just gently go around the edge of you just want the very outside edge of that orange. That's what I want. You don't want to get into the white at all. You don't need a lot, just, I guess I could have done it where you could have seen the measure, but I typically think there's a couple teaspoons on each orange. So I'm just going to go around there and get a little bit of orange. Right into the berries. Just like that. And somebody can juice this orange later and enjoy a nice juiced orange. So see, just a little bit of zest off of there. Dump that off. And then I'm just going to blend that in. There. We're going to wait about 30 minutes and we're going to come back and you're going to see that this will be all nice and juicy. And we're going to put it in the pie crust that's chilling in the refrigerator right now, and we'll make the top crust and we'll pop it in the oven. And while you're waiting to do this, you're going to preheat your oven with a rimmed cookie sheet. And if you really want to make it super simple for cleanup, put tin foil on that cookie sheet. You're going to put that on the bottom rack of your oven, and you're going to preheat your oven. You want to start that right now while this is sitting. Preheat it to 500 degrees. And then we'll come back in 30 minutes. You'll see my juicy berries, and we will get going. Okay, here we are back with our crust. It's been in the oven. It's been in the oven. It's been in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, which isn't necessary. It's just kind of a little bit extra. And you know what? I'm going to do this thing. It doesn't call for it, but no, I'm actually not going to do that. So we're going to take our berries. They've been here sitting for 30 minutes with the sugar and the cornstarch and the cinnamon and the orange rind, and we're just going to go ahead and then put this right into the pie pan. Kind of move them around a little bit, just jostle them in there. I'm going to get all this in there. You want every little bit of your delicious berries in there. Last little bit. Okay, set this off to the side. We're going to tuck those berries right on down into the edge of the pie crust so it fills it right up. These are the blackberries with 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, quarter teaspoon of cinnamon, pinch of salt. There we are. I just kind of mound it a little bit towards the edge, and I don't want them on the rim. Now, we're just going to set this aside for a second. We're going to take the second piece of pie crust dough that we put in the refrigerator a couple hours ago. Take that out. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour over my nice clean countertop. Swirl it around with my hand. I'm going to pat a little bit on each side of this. A little bit on this side. Kind of just like last time. Then I'm going to take my rolling pin. I'm going to start in the middle and just move it out a little bit. Pick it up, turn it. This one doesn't end up needing to be quite as thin as the other one. And I'm going to show you the butter bits. The reason that you keep your shortening really cold before you make your pie crust is so that you end up with these beautiful little dabs of butter sprinkled throughout your pie crust. That, along with the vodka, which has no flavor when it evaporates out of your crust, is what contributes to the amazing flakiness of this pie crust, which honestly, once you've tried it, you'll never ever use any other pie crust recipe. You'll be like me. Can you see those little flecks of butter throughout in there? I know my lighting's not great, but that's really what you want. You don't want a completely uniform dough. Now I'm going to take my pie right here, and I'm going to take my same ice water that I used before. I'm going to just, with my fingertips, kind of go just lightly around the edges with a little bit of that water. That's so that the two crusts seal together. Okay, so I've got the whole rim done. So I'm going to pick my pie crust up just like I did last time, fold it in half, move my pie over here. Just pick it up nice and gently. You're just going to lay it across there. There you go. And then I'm going to just press it to seal on the edges. Then I'm taking my sharp knife that I had before, and I'm going to cut. The edge of the pie pan is right here. I'm going to cut just a little, maybe 1/4 of an inch beyond that. I'm going to just cut all the way around. So my two crusts are, I don't know, 1/4 inch past the edge of the pie pan. I'm just feeling it with my fingers. This isn't scientific, you guys. It's pie. Pie is meant to be delicious, and sometimes it doesn't turn out 100% perfectly. You'll just learn to feel for it. The more you make pie, the easier it gets. So I'm just feeling under the rim. Honestly, I do this a lot faster when I'm not trying to show you guys. It's super simple. Doesn't have to be exact. So move those out of the way. And then I just take and I just basically roll it under. So I keep moving around the edge. So I've crimped it. I used the water, got it a little bit stuck together, trimmed it. And I'm just going to go around the edge and roll it under. With a apple pie, you may mound it up a little bit more, but with a berry pie, because of all the juices that come out, I'm not going to mound it quite so high, because then it just ends up making a big mess. Then I take a little bit of whatever the flour that's left on the counter, and I'm just going to go around and make that pretty fluted edge by putting 2 fingers together and pushing against it with my thumb, just like that. Super simple. You might keep a little bit of flour on your fingers just to keep them from sticking, and you end up with a perfect crimp around the edge. Doesn't matter if it's not 100% perfect. Then you're gonna cut a little bit of a vent in there. So a lot of times I'll just make a 5-pointed star. Doesn't matter what you do. You can do cutouts. You can do whatever you want to do. You want to have a little bit of a vent for some of the steam to come out of this crust while it's cooking, so it doesn't get trapped in there. And then I'm going to show you just a really fun little decorative thing to make a shinier crust. So hold your horses for 2 seconds. I'm going to put some cream in a container. Okay, I've got about a tablespoon of just plain heavy whipping cream in a bowl, and I'm just going to lightly brush that over the top. That'll help make the top just a shinier, prettier crust. Some people use egg white wash, where you just take the white of an egg and maybe put a little bit of water in it and whisk it together and then just lightly brush it over the top of your pie. That'll make a shinier, harder crust, but I typically have heavy whipping cream in the refrigerator, so it's just a lot easier for me to do it this way. Then I get a little bit right up there onto the rim, just ever so slightly. You're not trying to drench it. You're just trying to just give it a little bit of a glaze, right? And then if you want to get really fancy, some people sprinkle a little bit of sugar on the top at this point. I ended up buying at the store, like I said, we've got mice, so I keep everything in containers. But I use this stuff called turbino sugar, which a package of it will last you for just about forever. And just sprinkle just a little bit of that on top of your pie. It's like gilding the lily, if you know what I mean. And then I said optional crust shield, and I use one because I don't like my edges burnt as much. So then I just put this on here, and we're going to take it over and we're going to put it, our oven has been preheated to 500 degrees. So we're going to take it over here and I'm going to show you, I think, maybe not, if I can. I don't know. Anyway, hold on. I'll bring it all over here. Let's see. My low-tech kitchen setup, right? Hey. We have preheated the oven to 500 degrees. I don't know if I'm going to see in there. I've got my cookie sheet way down on the bottom rack. I'm going to go ahead and put this right on that hot cookie sheet. Put it right in the center. We're going to turn the oven down to 425. And we're going to set the timer for 25 minutes. And there, we're going to come back in 25 minutes and you will see. Okay, our timer just went off at 25 minutes. I'm going to open the oven. I'm going to slide this out so I don't burn my hands. I'm going to turn this around. You see how beautiful and golden that's getting? So I've got the aluminum foil on my rack because honestly, I just hate to wash things I don't need to wash. Okay, now we're going to turn the oven down to 375. We're going to set the timer for 30 minutes. It says 30 to 35 minutes. You can always add more time, but if you've overcooked it, you're kind of out of luck. So we always err on the small side. And if you don't know about your oven temperature, you may even start at 25. But we're going to come back and I will show you the bubbling juices and how to tell when it's all the way finished. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, our timer just went off at 30 minutes. Let's take this out and you will see. Okay, there's our pie. You see that bubbling out of the juices where it's super juicy and nice. I'm going to go ahead and take this pie shield off and just set it off to the side. And there we have it, our beautiful blackberry pie. Just bubbling away right out of the oven. We're just going to let that sit for the next, here we go, I don't know. Let's see if it'll, oh, she's a beauty, isn't she? Okay, it's just going to sit here and bubble away. It's 3 in the afternoon. This will be ready in time for dessert tonight around 7 o'clock. And there you have it, another episode of Cooking in the Kitchen with Dani. I'm glad you've joined me, and I hope you come back and we'll cook something else next time. This will be so much fun. Okay, see you later. Bye. Okay, now comes the moment of truth. We're going to cut into the blackberry pie. Let's see here. There. And there. Fingers are crossed, as always. And there is another beautiful piece of blackberry pie. So, thank you again for joining me for Cooking in the Kitchen with Dani, and I hope you try blackberry pie this summer.